Hello, it's John Heaton. I'm not going to do the whole McCartney solo catalogue, I'm just going to do my top 20 because there's just too many albums, okay? So, apologies if I missed some albums, but these are my top 20, okay? Number 20, Driving Rain. I haven't got this on vinyl. It's okay, it's got some decent tracks, but I don't really love any of them, really. Your Loving Flame is pretty decent, but okay. Number 19, Chocolatey CCCP, the Russian album. Again, it's pretty decent, some of it, but on the whole, I don't like live albums, and sorry, not live albums, but I don't like covers albums, and I'm Gonna Be a Wheel Someday, that's a good one. That's a good one. But a lot of the ones are quite annoying. Number 18, Chaos. Sorry, but I mean, I had high hopes for this album when it came out, but I got really annoyed with the song English Tea, which I think is one of Paul's worst ever songs. And I'm sure John would have laughed at that song. So, and I don't like Fine Line, the single, to be honest. I like Jenny Wren and maybe a couple of others, but I mean, it wasn't as great as everyone said it would be. So what are we, 20, 19, 18, 17, Pipes of Peace. Well, this was the start of the downward path for Paul. I mean, collaborating with Michael Jackson, Say, it's a crap song. It's disco crap. Sorry, don't like it. New. I'm not that fond of this album. I bought it, obviously, and I like Appreciate, and I like Early Days. Don't like Queenie Eye. I don't know, shit. I'm sorry, guys, but I was disappointed with this album. Alligator's okay. Next up, Memory Almost Full. This is better. This is better. Mr. Bellamy, good track. Dance the Night, excellent single. Ever a Pleasant Past, good song. So pretty decent latter day Paul album. Quite like it. Off the Ground. Well, I quite like it, but I'm put off by this collection, which has the complete work. So it has all the B-sides which were associated with the singles on this album, and quite frankly, the second disc is so bad, that it sort of takes the gloss off. I really should judge it on the original album, of which there's some good tracks. Like Mistress and Maid is probably one of my favourite Costello and McCartney songs. Biker Like an Icon is one of my least favourite Paul songs ever. Golden Earth Girl is decent. The Lovers That Never Were, another good, decent Costello McCartney song. So I like that one. Flowers in the Dirt is next up. I love My Brave Face. I don't like You Want Her To. I like I Got Married. I like Put It There, it's great. Figure of Eight is great, but quite frankly the live version was better than the studio version. And I like That Day Is Done. So when this album came out, I was really pleased. It hasn't actually aged that well for me. Flaming Pie is next up. And this was a really good album when it came out in '97. Some Days is one of his best songs ever, period. The World Tonight is not a good single. Souvenir is a good track. Little Willow is a classic. So a bit of a mixed bag, this one. Venus and Mars, well, I like this album, but I must admit I got into Wings Over America before I got into this album, and so some of the versions of the tracks on here are pale in comparison to the live version, so I don't rate it that highly, although it's obviously got some classics on it. Listen to What the Man Said, Medicine Jar from Jimmy McCulloch. You gave me the answers, a nice one as well, but I prefer the live version, sorry. So next up is McCartney 2. Well, I loved this album when it came out, and it's not bad. It was quite brave. It was kind of experimental. I don't like Temporary Secretary. I like Coming Up the Single, I like On the Way, I like Waterfalls. I like Summer's Day, his song. I don't like the instrumentals on side 2. And I like One of These Days, okay? So a bit of a mixed bag. Tug of War, the first album Paul came out with after John died, and it was a great album. I loved it when it first came out. Looking at it now, I love Here Today, his tribute to John. I love the title track, Tug of War. I don't like Take It Away, I have to say, I don't like it much. I like Wanderlust. I quite like Ballroom Dancing. And Ebony and Ivory is okay. Okay. Wildlife. A lot of people hate this album, but I love it. Some People Never Know is one of my favourite ever McCartney tracks. Tomorrow is another one of my favourite McCartney tracks. Okay, Bitbop is a little bit weak lyrically, but I love it as musically. Dear Friend, a great riposte to How Do You Sleep from Paul. I love that song, nice piano song, although it does go on too long. Next one, Bound on the Run. Probably expect to see this higher, but I've probably overplayed this, and I like it obviously, but I don't particularly like Jet. I love the title track, Bound on the Run. I love Mrs. Vanderbilt. I love Let Me Roll It, although I've probably heard it too often. I love Bluebird. I like Mamounia. No Words is good. I mean, there's some good stuff on here. I can't really criticise this album, but I've probably played it too often. Okay, next up is Back to the Egg, which was the follow-up to London Town, and this is another personal favourite of mine, which I bought around about when I was 15, and I know the critics slammed it, but they were wrong, obviously. Old Siam Sir is a great single. Getting Closer is pretty decent. Orchestra is pretty decent. Okay, Winter Rose, Love Awake, not bad ballads. Baby's Request, decent ballad. The only track I really have a problem with on here is So Glad to See You Here, which I think is a little bit of a monotonous rocker, but on the whole, good one. Sorry, I forgot to mention Again and Again and Again from Denny Lane. Great song. So I give a solid thumbs up to this one. I've even forgotten what number I'm on here, but anyway, this is the solo album, sorry, the debut album from him from 1970, and this is another mixed bag, but Every Night, Teddy Boy, that would be something brilliant. Maybe I'm Amazed, I don't really like the version on this album, but it's a great song. So I think it's worth it just for That Would Be Something, to be honest. That bass line is great. And next up, Ram. I love it, but it's not in my top 5. Uncle Albert is great, Eat at Home is great, Heart of the Country is one of my favourites, Too Many People, brilliant, Three Legs. The only thing I don't really like about this album is like the feud that he and Lennon were having at the time, and that kind of takes the edge off this album for me a little bit. It's not that happy, it's a little bit kind of angst-ridden, should I say. But it's a good album. I mean, everyone else loves it and I love it as well, but it's just not in my top few. This is a really underrated Wings album. I mean, it's got the two great singles, Let Him In and Silly Love Songs. It's also got The Note You Never Wrote, the track Paul wrote for Denny, which is great. But Where My Love is another underrated classic. Warm and Beautiful is a beautiful ballad. That was played at my wedding, actually. Time to Hide is a great track from Denny. Must Do Something About It, Paul wrote for Joe English. I love it. I just think this album flows really well together, and it's one of my favourite Wings albums. Next up, I think we're into the top 3 now. So Red Rose Speedway, this is a really big favourite of mine. I love virtually every track. I know Band on the Run was critically acclaimed more than this, but this album is great. Big Barn Bed, My Love, One More Kiss, and the medley, Hold Me Tight, particularly Hands of Love. I love the harmony between Paul and Linda on Hands of Love. And this album, as Rockboy680 said in his review, it's a really warm album, and it's just so joyful to listen to, and I come back to it very often, so I love it. Number 3, Red Rose Speedway. Good cover as well. Number 2. Okay, so maybe we're not allowed to include live albums, but this to me is the kind of definitive Wings album in a way. The triple album from '76, including mostly songs from Band on the Run, Venus and Mars, and Speed of Sound. This is the best live McCartney album ever, and he's come up with a few since. But the thing about this is this was him in his solo career, at the top of his game, at the top of the charts, and doing a decent mixture of 2/3 Wings, 1/3 Beatles, which is the right mixture for me. You know, latter day concerts from Paul, you see the other way around. You see like 4/5 Beatles, 1/5 Wings, which I think is ridiculous. But anyway, I love the versions of virtually all of the songs on here. Maybe I'm Amazed is an amazing version. Go Now from Denny is great. Time to Hide is sublime on here. The bass playing from Paul is ecstatic, and I can't say enough about this album. Maybe Soily is the only track I don't really like too much. Anyway, and my number 1 is London Town, and I did a separate review of this album, and this is just the one which is closest to my heart. So it's the first one I bought, and I just think the groove on this album is superb. I love the title track. I love With Little Luck, and I'm Carrying, and it's just got so many good tracks in it. I love listening to this album. So I picked these albums in terms of, you know, which ones I play the most. So this is my number 1. So thanks for watching. Leave a comment and see you next time.